When you grow up in silence, real silence, the kind that presses on your chest at night and makes your own heartbeat sound loud, somehow you learn to hear things that others don't. My name is Mariel, and I come from a small town where the houses are close but the hearts are far. I was raised by my grandmother after my parents left without a word. No letters, no calls, just one morning gone. People whispered things I wasn't supposed to hear. Some said they ran off, others said it was a curse. Either way, I was left with nothing but their shadows and questions no one wanted to answer. I grew up poor, not just in money, but in love, in comfort, in certainty. Our house stood at the edge of town, right next to the dense bamboo forest everyone avoided. MG Nilalang Da Dune, my Lola would whisper, half laughing but never daring to step near it. We lived a simple life. Rice for dinner, candles when the power cut out, and prayers whispered every night like they were passwords to keep something bad away. But even prayers have limits. I didn't have many friends growing up. I was the girl with the missing parents, or Anik Inghawaga, as the old ladies called me. Only one person ever stuck around, Rena. She lived a few houses down and never once asked about my family. Maybe that's why I trusted her. She made me laugh, told stories about escaping our tiny town one day, and always brought me snacks when I forgot to eat. Rena was the kind of person who made the world feel lighter, even if only for a moment. But it all changed last year. It started with small things. Unlocked doors that I swore I had locked. My slippers moved to the opposite side of the room. Candles burning out faster than they should. At first, I thought I was just tired. I was working late at the town library then, mostly organizing old books, scanning archives, things like that. But then the dreams came. They weren't normal dreams. They were vivid, too real. In one, I was walking through the bamboo forest at night, barefoot, the leaves slicing in my skin. I heard whispering, hundreds of voices overlapping, like a crowd murmuring behind a curtain. And in the middle of the forest stood a small wooden hut with no door, no windows, just darkness. I always woke up before reaching it, heart racing, hands cold. Rena told me to stop drinking coffee at night. She said maybe I was just stressed, overthinking things. But I knew it wasn't that. One morning, I found my library keys inside the fridge. Another day, I woke up with muddy footprints on my bedroom floor. Too small to be mine, too fresh to be old. Then came the letter. It was folded neatly on my bed when I got home from work. No envelope, just one line written in smudged ink. Don't go back to the forest. He remembers you. I felt like my lungs collapsed. I hadn't told anyone about the dreams. No one even knew I had walked through the forest in them. The letter smelled of damp wood, like the inside of an old coffin. I showed it to Rena, but she just stared at it, lips tight. Maybe it's a prank, she said, but her eyes didn't believe her own words. We burned the letter. For a while, things quieted down, but the silence felt wrong, too heavy, like the air before a storm. Then I started seeing shadows out of the corner of my eye. In the library, in my room, even when walking to the market. Not people, too thin, too twisted like smoke trying to stand. I remember one night I stayed late at the library, organizing old municipal records. I found a box labeled Missing Persons 1960 to 1990. Curious, I opened it. Dozens of faded photos, names scribbled in pencil, most unreadable. But one photo stopped me cold. It was my mother. She was younger, smiling, holding a baby. The name under the photo, Alicia Ramos, vanished 1988. My birth year. But how could she be missing? She left, didn't she? I brought the photo home, showed it to Lola. Her face went pale. She took the picture and threw it into the fireplace without a word. I had never seen her that afraid. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "Some things are better left unfound." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, staring at the ashes, thinking of my mother's eyes in that photo. She looked so alive, so happy, so unaware of what was coming. In the weeks that followed, I started to feel watched. Not just watched, studied, like something was trying to remember me, piece by piece. I'd wake up with scratches on my arms, find small toys in my bag that weren't mine. Once, I heard a child's laughter in the middle of the night coming from the forest. I haven't been near those trees since I was a child, but somehow, it's like they've come closer. Each day, I swear the line between the forest and our backyard is thinner. Then, 3 nights ago, Rena disappeared. She texted me at 10:47 p.m. I heard something outside. Thought I saw a kid in your yard. Call me. I did, over and over. No answer. By the time I ran to her house, she was gone. The door was wide open. Lights off. No sign of struggle. Just one thing on her living room table. A small, hand-carved wooden figure. It looked exactly like me. Same clothes. Same necklace. Same long scar on my left arm. I touched it and felt a chill rush through me. Now, I don't know if I'm awake or dreaming. The air smells like earth, like something buried deep is starting to breathe again. I keep hearing whispers in the wind, soft like secrets. I tried telling the police, but they just laughed. Another drama queen, they said. But I know something's wrong. Something ancient. Something older than curses and darker than death. Last night, I found muddy footprints again. Only this time, they didn't stop at my door. They ended right beside my bed. And when I turned around, nothing. But I swear something moved under the floorboards. That night, I couldn't sleep. Even when the shadows calmed and the wind grew still, I stayed frozen in bed, eyes wide open, watching every corner of the room. The muddy footprints were gone in the morning, but I knew they had been there. I didn't imagine them. I felt the dampness in the floorboards. I saw the outline of a barefoot child standing by my bed. And now, I could feel something had shifted. Lola acted differently too. She no longer joked when I mentioned the forest. She didn't scold me for missing breakfast or leaving the door unlocked. Instead, she watched me from across the room, quiet and distant, like she was measuring the days we had left. Later that afternoon, I found her sitting by the kitchen table, holding a box I had never seen before. It was wooden, old, with carvings of strange symbols, curved lines, stars, and what looked like human eyes. Her hands were shaking. She didn't even notice me standing there until I said her name. "Lola, what's that?" She stared at me, her eyes glassy with fear. Then she slowly pushed the box across the table toward me. "This belonged to your mother," she whispered, "and now it's yours." Inside was a small pendant, round, made of dark green stone, with a faint glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was set in gold and shaped like a leaf. Hanging from it was a short chain, rusted but still strong. "This is a mutia," Lola said, "passed down through the women of our family. Your mother wore it every day. I told her to never take it off, but she did, and she disappeared. I didn't know what to say. The stone felt warm in my palm, almost alive." Lola continued, her voice low and heavy. "Our blood is old, Anik. You were born into a line of Bante. Guardians. You're Lola before me, and her mother before her. We don't just protect stories. We protect the line between this world and the other, the one beyond the trees." I thought she was joking. I wanted her to be joking. But the seriousness in her eyes chilled me. "Then why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because knowing makes you a target," she said. "But now they already know. They've returned." She stood up slowly, walked to her room, and came back with a small, hand-stitched pouch. Inside were dried leaves, crushed herbs, and what looked like a tiny fawn. "Keep this with you," she said. "It's Pangantra, but won't last forever." That evening, I went back to the library. I needed answers. I dug through the old newspaper records and municipal archives, looking for anything tied to my mother's name, or our family. Buried in a folder marked confidential, Barangi reports, 1980s, I found something strange. There had been disappearances in our town long before my mother vanished. Children, young women, all from the same part of town near the bamboo forest. The last report was from 1988, the year I was born. It mentioned a woman found wandering in the woods, bleeding and confused, carrying a baby. No name, no photo, but deep down I knew it was her. My mother. Why didn't Lola ever tell me she came back? What happened to her after that night? As I left the library, I noticed the air had changed. It was thicker, heavier. The smell of damp earth clung to my skin. Then, from the shadows near the waiting shed, I saw him. An old man, barefoot, hunched, with long white hair tied back with twine. He wore faded clothes, and his eyes looked older than the forest itself. "Muriel," he said, not asked, said. "Why do you know my name?" "You were the Mutia. It calls to those who remember." He introduced himself as Mang Pido, a Mangagamot, but also something more. People whispered he had once healed a man possessed by a Tikbalang. Others said he could speak to the spirits of the river. I wasn't sure what to believe until he placed his palm on my forehead. In that instant, I saw flashes, visions that weren't mine. My mother running through the woods, screaming, holding me in her arms. A circle of shadows surrounding her, glowing red eyes. Then a voice, deep and monstrous. "She is ours." I fell backward, breathless. Mang Pido helped me up. "They're not after you," he said. "They're after what you carry." "What do you mean?" "You're not just her daughter. You're her heir. The last of your bloodline, still untouched." He explained that my family had been hunted by Swangs for generations. Powerful ones, leaders of their kind. My ancestors once sealed them beyond the forest with a sacred ritual using the Mutia. But every seal weakens with time, and now they were waking. The one who marked your dreams, the one you saw in the hut, is the eldest. They call him alone Ingdugo. He's the reason your mother disappeared. She tried to finish what her mother started, but she failed. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you have the blood and the choice." Mang Pido gave me a wooden staff carved with symbols and wrapped in dried vines. It felt heavier than it looked. "You must train," he said. "Learn to protect yourself. The Mutia will awaken soon, and when it does, they will come." The next weeks were a blur of strange lessons. Mang Pido took me to the river every morning before sunrise. I learned how to move quietly, how to sense changes in the air, how to speak ancient phrases that made the water shimmer. He taught me about Pangalab, the gathering of natural spirits for guidance, about the difference between an ordinary wind and a cursed breeze, about how salt, ash, and prayers formed a shield stronger than any fence. But the hardest part wasn't the training. It was pretending everything was normal. People started looking at me differently. Rena's disappearance had shaken the whole neighborhood. Rumors were spreading that I was cursed, that I had something to do with it. Even Lola began to fall ill. She grew weaker each day, like something was slowly draining her. I asked Mang Pido if it was connected. "She is carrying the burden too long," he said. "The Mutia was meant to pass before she grew old. She kept it for you. Now she's paying the price." I tried to convince myself it would be okay. I could fix this. But each night, I felt the pull of the forest getting stronger. I heard whispering in my dreams again, only now it was louder, clearer. "Come home," the voice said. One night, I woke to the sound of knocking. Not on the door, on the window. 3 soft knocks, then a pause, then 3 more. When I looked, no one was there. But in the morning, carved into the wood of the windowsill, was a single word, "Soon." I don't know how much longer I can keep hiding. The forest is no longer waiting, it's calling. And I'm afraid the next time I answer, I might not come back the same. I don't remember the last night I slept without fear. Even now, when I lie in bed, my ears are always alert. Every creak of wood, every whisper of wind, every tiny scratch on the window, it all sounds like a warning. I try to stay still. I try not to breathe too loud, like silence can protect me. But it never does. The word soon, carved on my windowsill, keeps burning in my head. I still haven't told Lola about it. She's too weak now. Her cough has worsened, and her voice is barely above a whisper. Every day, she looks smaller, like something is draining the life out of her piece by piece. And maybe it is. Mang Pito told me that the Mutia takes a toll on the keeper if not passed on in time. Lola kept it for too long. Not because she wanted to, because she was afraid. Afraid that I would have to face what she couldn't. Or maybe what my mother refused to. That thought haunts me more than the shadows. What if my mother didn't just vanish? What if she ran? What if she left me? That idea, it hurts more than the nightmares. For so long, I told myself she was taken, that she didn't have a choice, that she was a victim. But what if she abandoned me to save herself? I want to believe she fought, that she protected me, that she loved me enough to face the darkness. But the truth is, I don't know her. And that hole in my chest, that emptiness where a mother's voice should be, it's growing. I tried asking Lola again, desperate for anything. A story, a memory, a lie even. But she only looked at me with glassy eyes and said, "Some truths will only hurt you, Anik." That night, I went back to the forest line. I didn't enter. I just stood there, holding the Mutia tight around my neck, listening. The trees were still. Too still. Even the crickets had stopped. Then I saw them. Eyes. Dozens of them, peeking between the bamboo. Glowing faintly red. Not blinking. Just watching. I didn't run. I just whispered, "I'm not afraid of you." And maybe that was true. But what I didn't say was that I was more afraid of myself. Of what I might become. Of the things waking up inside me. Mang Pito says the Mutia is responding faster now. That my dreams are turning into visions. I see places I've never been. Faces I've never met. Symbols burned into stone. Blood mixing with water. And always that voice calling me back. The next morning, I found a dead crow on our doorstep. Its eyes had been plucked out. A warning, or a promise. I started carrying the Pangantra in my pocket again. The tiny pouch of herbs and salt. I don't know if it works, but it gave me something to hold on to. Later that day, Mang Pito brought me to a place I'd never seen before. A cave hidden behind a dry waterfall deep within the hills. Inside, the air felt ancient. Heavy. The walls were covered in markings. Stories of battles between light and shadow. Guardians and monsters. One symbol stood out. A woman holding a glowing stone, standing alone in front of a sea of darkness. "She is your ancestor," he said. "The first Bante." She was alone? I asked. He nodded. "Always." The weight of those words settled on my shoulders. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't ask for any of this. But here I was. Mang Pito handed me a blade, black, curved, with carvings on the handle. This was forged with fire and prayer. Only a true guardian can wield it. It felt cold at first, but when I gripped it tightly, I felt a pulse, like it recognized me. That night, I trained until my hand bled, striking shadows, memorizing chants, learning to move in silence, to breathe like the wind. I told myself this was all for Lola, for Rena, for the people disappearing without a trace. But part of me was doing it for her. My mother, to prove I was stronger, to prove I didn't need her. But guilt eats away at pride. And sometimes, in the silence of early morning, I wonder what I would say if I saw her again. Why? Why did you leave? Was I not worth fighting for? Mang Pito says holding on to pain makes your aura darker. It invites things, but I can't help it. I carry this sadness like it's part of my skin. One evening, I walked home from training and felt it. Something was following me. I didn't see it, but I heard the crunch of leaves, the sudden stop when I stopped, the breathing that wasn't mine. I turned quickly and whispered a chant Mang Pito taught me. For a second, the wind swirled unnaturally, and there it was. Not a full swang, something smaller. A scout, maybe half-formed. Its skin was pale, stretched tight over bones. Its eyes were too big, its mouth full of sharp teeth. It didn't attack. It just stared. Then it whispered, "She's alive." I froze. "What did you say?" I asked, voice shaking. "She lives, but not for long." Then it vanished into the trees. I ran to Mang Pito's hut, heart racing. He listened quietly, then looked at me with something between sorrow and dread. "The seal is breaking faster than I thought," he said. "And if she's alive, then the curse didn't take her. Something else did." "But what?" I asked. He hesitated, then whispered, "There are worse things than a Swang's, Mariel." That night, I dreamt of fire. The forest was burning. Screams echoed in the distance. I saw a figure tied to a tree, eyes covered, mouth gagged. It was my mother. I woke up screaming. Lola ran into my room, coughing violently, clutching her chest. She collapsed in my arms. As I held her, trying to keep her breathing steady, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I tried to protect you," she said. "I tried to stop her." "Stop who, Lola?" But her head dropped. She fainted. Now I don't know what's real anymore. Did Lola betray my mother? Did she hide her away? Or worse, did she offer her to them? Everything I thought I knew, everything I believed, feels like it's falling apart. I want to hate her, but she raised me. She loved me. And yet, part of me can't stop wondering what else she hasn't told me. The forest is closer now. The shadows reach our doorstep, and I can feel something inside me cracking open. A power I don't understand. A truth I'm not ready for. But time is running out. Soon, I'll have to choose between saving the world or uncovering the truth about my own blood, and maybe losing everything either way. The air had changed. Even before the sun set, the wind was cold, unnaturally cold. The birds that used to chirp in the trees near our house had gone silent. The stray dogs in the barangay barked all night now, facing the trees, growling at something none of us could see. Everyone said it was just bad weather, or maybe a storm coming. But I knew better. Something was moving. Something was coming. Mang Pito confirmed it when I visited him the next day. His herbs had turned black. The protective charms hanging by his windows cracked in the middle of the night. His goats, 3 of them, had disappeared, leaving behind only bones, stripped clean like they had been swallowed whole. "They're not hiding anymore," he said quietly, stirring the smoke above his altar. "They're preparing for something, a gathering or a war." I felt the weight of those words drop heavily into my chest. I wasn't ready. I still hadn't figured out everything. Why my mother disappeared, what Lola was hiding, what the Mutya truly wanted from me. I didn't even know if I could trust myself anymore. The more I trained, the stronger I got, but it wasn't just physical. The dreams were deeper now. Sometimes I would see things before they happened. Once, I touched Rena's hand and saw her falling into darkness. The next day, she slipped on a bridge and nearly drowned. The Mutya was changing me. I didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. That night, I sat with Rena on the old bench behind the chapel ruins. We used to go there as kids, pretending it was our secret fortress. Now it looked like the only place left untouched by the shadows. "I feel like I don't know you anymore," she said suddenly, her voice soft. I couldn't answer. How could I explain something I didn't understand myself? You disappear for days. You don't eat. You don't sleep. And when I look in your eyes, it's like you're somewhere else. "I'm trying to protect you," I finally said. She shook her head. "What if I don't want you to protect me? What if I just want to fight beside you?" I looked at her, really looked, and saw the same fear I carried in my own chest. Not fear of monsters, but fear of being left behind. Fear of being forgotten. I held her hand. Then we fight together. The next few days passed in silence. Too quiet. No one disappeared. No signs. No screams. But that's what scared me the most. Mang Pito called it the stillness before the rip. He said the Aswangs had gathered. And worse, not just Aswangs. Something older. Something buried beneath the hills of San Ignacio, now waking from its slumber. A curse sealed by blood, he said, and your family holds the key. I begged Lola for answers again. She couldn't speak much anymore. Her strength was leaving her fast. But that night, she gave me something, an old wooden box hidden beneath her bed. Inside was a journal, my mother's. It was torn and faded, but I read every word I could. And what I learned broke me. She hadn't run. She had offered herself to protect me. The night she disappeared, she had gone into the woods alone, not to hide, but to seal the darkness. She had bargained her life for mine, using the bloodline binding she inherited from the first Bante. But it didn't last. The seal was breaking now, because I was old enough to carry the power. And she had become part of the forest. Not dead, not alive, a spirit in between. And the enemy? The Aswangs? They weren't just feeding anymore. They were looking for the Mutya to destroy it, to end the bloodline once and for all. And me, I was the last. The pressure started to crush me. Every day, more signs appeared. Inverted crosses drawn in animal blood on walls. Children waking up with scratches on their backs. Dreams shared by strangers, all speaking of the same thing, the night of crossing. Mang Pito explained it. A rare blood moon, coming in 3 days, when the veil between the living and the dead would weaken, when all protection would fail. That's when they planned to rise. And if I wasn't ready, they would win. Rena and I trained day and night. She wasn't like me. She didn't have visions or ancient power, but she was brave. Her heart was stronger than anyone I knew. She learned to fight, to chant, to guard herself against shadow creatures. She even crafted her own weapon, blessed by Mang Pito, a staff tipped with silver, soaked in seawater and sunlight. But no amount of training erased the doubt in me. What if I fail? What if I lose her too? The night before the blood moon, the sky turned dark even before sunset. Clouds swirled in circles. The trees bent as if bowing to something ancient. And then the ground shook. Just once. A short, deep tremor like something beneath us had stretched. It has begun, Mang Pito whispered. People started locking themselves indoors. The Barangi captain ordered everyone to stay inside. Holy water was sprinkled on every door. Prayers echoed from radios. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. That night, I went to the old tree where my mother vanished. I held the Mutya to the bark and whispered her name. Nene. For a moment, nothing. Then the leaves rustled. The tree bled. Dark sap poured from a crack in the trunk. And I saw her face. Pale. Hollow. But hers. You must choose, she whispered. Your pain or your purpose. I wanted to scream. To ask why she never came back. To cry into her arms like a child again. But there was no time. The shadows had begun to spread from the forest. We saw them from the hill. Black tendrils crawling across the fields, poisoning crops, killing light. They were preparing. So were we. Mang Pito blessed our weapons. Rena tied the last charm to her belt. And I, with my mother's journal in my pocket and the Mutya pulsing against my chest, stood on the edge of the village. Waiting, watching, feeling the enemy close in. The blood moon began to rise. And the real horror had only just begun. The night swallowed the sky. As the blood moon rose fully, a strange silence blanketed San Ignacio. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. My skin tingled with energy, heavy, ancient, and wild. The Mutya on my chest pulsed like a second heartbeat, faster now, warmer. It was warning me, and then I heard it, a low whisper carried by the wind. Not a word, but a name. Mine. I turned quickly, expecting to see Rena or Mang Pito behind me, but there was no one. Only the shadows. Something had changed. I could feel in my bones a twisting sensation deep inside, like something was waking up or remembering. All the training, all the warnings, they hadn't prepared me for this. Because now, the danger wasn't just out there. It was inside me. We gathered near the edge of the forest, where the tree with my mother's spirit stood quiet and cold. Rena was sharpening her staff. Mang Pito was muttering prayers, and I kept staring at the ground beneath us. I didn't know why, until it moved. A single crack appeared, just a few inches wide, barely noticeable, but from it, a faint red glow seeped out, like lava trapped under centuries of stone. Mang Pito, I whispered. He walked over slowly, his eyes narrowing. When he saw the crack, he fell silent. Then he cursed under his breath. The Alwang Dugo, he muttered. The blood vein, the source. What does that mean? Rena asked. Mang Pito looked at both of us, his face pale. It means this was never just about Aswangs. They were only guarding the real secret. Something older. A god or a demon buried below. My stomach turned. All this time, we thought we were preparing to fight monsters. Creatures that lurk in the dark, steal babies, drink blood. But this was something else. The last time it awakened, Mang Pito continued. Half this island drowned. That's why the old towns vanished, why the river shifted paths. Your ancestors sealed it here under this land. Your mother's sacrifice slowed it. But now it's waking up, I said, feeling the mucus burn against my skin. We had to do something fast. Mang Pito began preparing a sealing ritual. He needed time. Candles, salt, smoke from burning Comanche. While he worked, Rena and I kept watch. The forest trembled behind us. Distant howls echoed across the hills. And then we heard footsteps. Not Aswangs, not spirits, Umans, Barangi Tanits, neighbors, even a village priest, carrying torches, marching straight toward us. I stepped forward, raising my hand. Stay back. It's not safe. But they didn't stop. And then I saw who was leading them. Tío Ernesto, my father's brother, a man I hadn't seen in years. He used to drink and gamble and disappear for weeks. I thought he was just a bitter old man who didn't care. But there he was, standing straight, smiling like a snake. Well, he said, voice cold and proud. The last of the bloodline. Just in time. Mon Ernesto? Rena asked, confused. What's going on? He raised his torch. The darkness belongs to us. You think your family sealed it to protect this land? No, they stole its power. We were meant to inherit it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You betrayed your own blood? I shouted. He laughed. You think this place is cursed by accident? I waited 30 years for this night. Your mother ruined everything. But now, we'll finish what she started. Suddenly, the villagers with him dropped their torches and changed. Their eyes turned black. Their fingers stretched into claws. Their skin peeled into scales or fur. They weren't human anymore. They were Aswangs. Not monsters hiding in the forest. They were living among us. All this time, I grabbed Rena and shouted, "Run!" We sprinted into the trees, dodging branches, jumping over roots. Behind us, the pack followed, howling, snarling, shrieking like wild beasts. I could barely breathe. My heart pounded louder than my footsteps. Mang Pito stayed behind, trying to buy us time. We reached the riverbank where we had trained weeks ago. I turned to fight, but Rena stopped me. "Look," she cried. The river was glowing. The water wasn't normal anymore. It shimmered like silver, and in its center, a giant stone rose slowly, covered in old carvings and moss. And sitting atop it was a woman. Long hair, pale skin, eyes like glass. My mother, but not as I remembered her. She wasn't a spirit anymore. She was something else. "You must choose," her voice echoed again. "Choose what?" I begged. "Tell me." But she only raised her hand, and suddenly I saw it all. The war between humans and the old gods. The first Bante who betrayed his own kind to seal the darkness. The price paid in blood. and the curse passed down to every child born in our family. We weren't protectors. We were keys, living locks for an ancient gate. And now, I was the last. If I gave in, the gate would open. If I resisted, the seal would hold, but only for a short time. Either way, something would break. The truth shattered something inside me. All my life, I thought I was a hero in waiting. But I was a vessel. And the Mutia? It wasn't just power. It was bait. To lure the darkness to me. I fell to my knees, shaking lost. But Rena grabbed my shoulder. "We still have a choice," she said, breathing hard. "Whatever they planned, it's not finished yet. You're still you." I nodded slowly. But deep down, I wasn't sure anymore. The enemy had revealed itself, and it wore familiar faces. Tio Ernesto was leading them. The villagers we trusted were part of it. Mang Pito was alone. And my mother, she was neither dead nor alive. Only the river knew her truth. The blood moon burned higher above, and the land trembled once more. This was no longer a battle against the Swangs. It was a war against fate, and I was no longer sure if I could win. The wind howled like 1,000 screams as the red glow from the cracked earth spread across San Ignacio like veins of fire. Trees shook. The river rose. The mucia around my neck beat wildly against my chest. It was time. I stood on the riverbank, my knees weak, heart heavier than ever. All paths had led to this moment. Behind me, Rena stood with her spear, sweat dripping from her forehead, her eyes burning with fear and fierce loyalty. We were outnumbered. The villagers, no, the Aswangs, were marching down from the hills. Some flew, some crawled. All of them had one thing in common. They were coming for me. Tio Ernesto led them like a king returning to his stolen throne. His voice echoed through the trees. "Give in, Iho. Your blood is the final offering." I clenched my fists. My blood, my family, my destiny. I could feel it all inside me, swirling, clawing, begging to be used or destroyed. Mang Pito, now injured and weak, leaned against a fallen tree. He had given his life to guide me this far. Rena had followed me when she didn't have to. Even my mother, whatever she had become, stood somewhere between protector and prisoner of the darkness. And now I had to choose. Let the evil in or destroy myself to stop it. The stone in the river, the ancient seal, glowed with pulsing symbols. It called to me. I stepped toward it, and the water parted with every step, as if even the river feared what was coming. Then the earth split open. From the mouth of the cracked soil rose the creature, the true face of the curse. A massive, hulking being made of shadow and bone, with wings like smoke and teeth like blades. It had no eyes, only a mouth that whispered in 100 different voices. "You were always mine." My body froze. I couldn't move. The mutia burned hotter. I felt my arms tremble. My knees buckled. Rena screamed from behind me. "Fight it. Don't give in." But how? How do you fight something that was born with you? Tio Ernesto stepped forward, holding a dagger carved from black bone. "You were born for this. This is not death, it's glory. You will become more than human. You'll become a god." I turned to face him. "You betrayed our family. You fed your own people to these things." He smiled proud, and they'll remember my name for it. I gripped the mutia, feeling it crack slightly under the pressure. Power surged through my fingers. I could feel the blood of the Bante ancestors screaming inside me. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a vessel. I was the seal itself, the final gate. The creature opened its wings and roared. The force knocked trees down, threw rocks into the river, and sent Rena flying back. Mang Pito raised his staff weakly, chanting a protective prayer, but the shadow beast struck him with a tendril of darkness, throwing him lifeless against the cliff. "Manpeideo!" I shouted. No answer, only silence. Something broke inside me. Tears streamed down my face. Not from fear, but fury. All these years I had run from my past, hated my blood, cursed my name. But now I saw it clearly. We weren't cursed. We were chosen. And now it was time to answer. I stepped into the glowing stone, the heart of the seal. The mutia cracked completely and turned into ash in my hand. From beneath the stone, a new light rose, white, blinding, ancient. A voice, my mother's, filled my head. Say the name. Speak the truth. I looked at the shadow beast as it lunged toward me, and I screamed the name passed down through generations. Aleandro. That was the name of the first guardian. The name erased from the family records to protect it from being corrupted. The moment I spoke it, the stone beneath me lit up in full. Symbols wrapped around my arms like tattoos. And then, I became light. I felt my soul rise, stretch, break, and rebuild. The creature screamed as if burning. Tio Ernesto tried to run, but he was pulled back by the very shadows he had served. I walked toward the beast, step by step. With every word from my mouth, the light grew stronger. By the blood of those who came before, the beast shrieked. By the names erased from time, it began to shrink, twist. And by the truth of who I am, it fell to its knees. I seal you, not with fear, but with will. The earth closed around it like a cage of roots and rock. The sky cracked with thunder. The fire in the earth died out. And then silence. Only the wind. And the river come again. Rena limped toward me, bruised and bleeding. Is it over? I looked around. The villagers had returned to normal, confused, frightened. The curse had lifted from their eyes. Tio Ernesto was gone. No body. No trafe. The stone at my feet turned dull gray. The light had faded. The symbols on my skin disappeared like mist. And then I heard her voice again. My mother, you did what I couldn't. I turned and saw her spirit, clear and peaceful now, by the edge of the river. No longer bound, no longer twisted. Thank you, she whispered. I tried to speak, but she was already fading, gone with the wind. Later that night, as we burned the remains of Mang Pito's staff in the old tree hollow, Rena asked, what happens now? I looked at the sky, no longer red but full of stars. I don't know, but the curse is gone, right? I paused. That one, yes. And then I felt it, a small rumble beneath my feet. Almost nothing. There would always be something beneath. And someone like me would always be needed to watch. That was the price. Not for one life, but for all of them. I wasn't just a survivor. I was the last of the Guardians. And maybe the first of something new. A few weeks had passed since the battle by the river. The land of San Ignacio was slowly healing, as if the darkness that once swallowed it had lifted. Trees began to bloom again, and animals returned to the forests. People came out of their homes no longer with fear, but with questions. They remembered strange dreams, blackouts, and missing time. But no one truly knew what had happened. Only bits and pieces, like a nightmare half forgotten after waking. I never told them the full truth. Some things are better left buried. Rena and I helped rebuild what we could. We repaired broken fences, fixed water lines, and replanted crops. For the first time in a long while, the village shared laughter again. But even in the calm, I carried the weight of everything I'd seen. I still saw Mang Pito in my dreams, his voice guiding me, warning me. I still remembered my mother's last words, her face finally at peace. And I still felt the faint, almost silent pulse beneath the earth, like something still watching, waiting. One morning, as the fog rolled over the hills, Rena came to me with a letter. It was from her family in the city. They had been worried about her. They didn't know she had stayed through the chaos, through the storm. They want me back, she said softly, to start over. I looked at her, the girl who had stood by me when the world turned dark, who fought with me side by side. even when she was scared. Do you want to go? I asked. She looked out over the trees, the smoke rising gently from the village. I don't know, she said. Part of me wants to forget, but part of me knows I won't be the same anywhere else. I nodded. I understood. None of us were the same anymore. Later that night, I returned to the river. Alone, I stood by the ancient stone, now dull and cold. I could still feel a whisper from it sometimes, not words, just a hum in my bones. I sat on the riverbank, watching the moon reflect in the water. That's when I saw her, a small girl, no older than 7, standing by the other side of the river. Her eyes were glowing faintly, and her skin shimmered like fog. She didn't speak. She only held out her hand, and in it a small stone. A new mutia, different from the one I had before, lighter, warmer, but still pulsing with something deep. I didn't cross the river. I only bowed my head. She smiled, and in the blink of an eye, she was gone. I knew then it wasn't over. Not completely. There would always be things hiding in the corners of the world. And people like me, we were not chosen just once. We were bound. I took the stone and slipped it into a pouch around my neck. Not for power, but for reminder. The next day, I visited Mang Pito's hut one last time. The roof had collapsed, and vines were growing through the walls. But inside, it still smelled of herbs and ash. I found his old journal under the floorboards, pages filled with notes, chants, sketches of symbols I didn't understand. But on the last page, written in his shaky hand, was a message meant for me. When you feel lost again, look to the water. The truth always returns with the current. I folded the page and kept it. Truth, yes, but also grief. I still had to face the truth about my family. About Tio Ernesto, my uncle, my blood, the man who gave himself fully to the dark. His body was never found, but I sometimes feel him in the trees, in the silence, like he left a piece of himself behind. One night, during a heavy rain, I saw a man walking down the road outside the village. Tall, with a limp and a shadow that stretched too long. He didn't stop. He didn't look back, but I knew it was him. He had survived, and he would return. Maybe not soon, maybe not here, but somewhere, someday. The curse wasn't a story to be told once. It was a cycle, one we barely interrupted. Still, we had given people time. Time to breathe, to live, and that for now was enough. Rena eventually left. I walked her to the jeepney stop. We didn't say much, just held hands until the driver honked and she climbed aboard. Before she left, she looked back. You'll be okay? I smiled weakly. I'm still here, right? She nodded. Keep the light. And then she was gone. I stayed in San Ignacio. Not as a hero, just a watcher. I cleaned Mang Pito's old hut and began to live there. Sometimes kids from the village would come by, asking for help with dreams or nightmares. I gave them simple herbs, told them stories just like he did. One day a boy asked me, Kuya, are monsters real? I thought about the shadow beast, the seal, the voices, and all the pain that came with it. I smiled gently. Yes, but so are people who fight them. He grinned and ran off, satisfied. That night, I sat by the fire and opened Mang Pito's journal again. The words blurred from tears I didn't notice falling. So much had been lost, but in that loss, I found something I never thought I would. A purpose, a name, a reason to stay. Not to wait for evil, but to protect the quiet. As I drifted off to sleep, the wind whispered through the trees. Not in fear, but like a lullaby. And in the distance, far from the village, the earth gave one soft sigh, as if resting. For now, thank you for following the full journey of 35 real horror stories from Reddit // Let's Not Meet Special. This was more than a horror tale. It was about legacy, courage, and what it means to choose light even when surrounded by darkness. Subscribe and follow for more true inspired horror fantasy stories. Until then, keep your mucha close and never ignore the whispers in the wind.